I know you're all excited to jump into advertising, so let's get started with some of the more meaty stuff and things that you can actually get started with today. Advertising usually falls into two different buckets. The first is awareness, and the second is conversions. Awareness is sometimes referred to as branding or brand awareness, whereas conversions can also be referred to as direct response. Awareness campaigns refer to getting people who may not be familiar with your brand to later recall your company or your name when asked or prompted in the future. Think of awareness as forming relationships with your potential customers. Conversions refers to turning prospects into customers for your business. Now, when we talk about conversions, we're often talking about sales or purchases, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the case. This can be anything that drives value for your business: a download, a click, a webinar watch. Whatever brings value to your business can also be considered a conversion. So when talking about awareness and conversions, we're actually referring to goals and the overarching goals that you want to achieve through social media advertising. Goals are directly tied to each campaign that you want to run. These can be campaigns directed around driving traffic to your website. They can be directed around driving purchases to a specific product, or like we talked about before, they can be centered around downloading an ebook or watching a webinar. What I like to encourage you to do is start with one top of the funnel or brand awareness driven ad. And the goal there might be simply brand awareness. For example, the top of the funnel ad that I showed you earlier on creating a GIF, that is a very brand awareness overarching campaign goal. From there, you want to be very specific about what you hope that brand awareness goal achieves. So for this particular video on making a GIF, our specific goal was to drive 10-second video views, and we determined the success of this video based on 10-second video views. Whereas if you're posting a link to drive brand awareness, your specific goal might be visits to website or time spent or number of pages visited. So what you want to do is start in a very high level of maybe brand awareness. It's a great place to get started, and then set specific goals based on brand awareness type ads. It's time to move into ways where you can begin to track the success or of course failures of your advertising campaigns. Understanding the various tracking methods can be an entire class on its own. So what I'd like to do now is give you a brief overview, and then we'll share some more resources in the class resource list where you can go to learn more about tracking and set up more sophisticated models for your advertising efforts. The first and most obvious tracking method is of course Google. Many of you have probably clicked on Google UTMs and haven't even noticed it. Essentially what a Google UTM is you're adding specific words or parameters, as they call them, to your link. And that could be where the traffic is coming from, what campaign you're running it under. There are a lot of different ways to set up a custom UTM. But to make it simple, a Google UTM will allow you to see where the traffic is coming from, how many clicks it garnered, and what result it had for your business. So there are two important buckets to tracking. The first is Google Analytics, like we just talked about, and the other is setting up pixels or tags on your website to track social media advertising efforts specific to each individual platform. It seems more complicated than it is, but a pixel is simply a small snippet of JavaScript code that you can add to your website in order to track individual pages. So for example, if you wanted to run ads on Facebook, Facebook has a super easy to use setup guide on how to get started with that. Essentially what a Facebook pixel does, as you can see here is a small line of JavaScript code, is open up the lines of communication between the Facebook platform and your website, giving Facebook detailed information about the customers and prospects that are visiting your website. Things like demographics, location, interests, likes. So as you can see here, Facebook is now tracking all of our website visitors over the last 30 days, and you can do a custom date, you can filter this information, and then you can eventually use this information to target a specific audience, which we'll talk about in the next section. You might be wondering why pixels are so important in a section talking about goals. Well, pixels allow you to set custom conversion events, and bear with me, it's not as complicated as it sounds. Pixels allow you to set custom conversion events that tell Facebook or tell Pinterest or tell these social networks when a user has completed a specific action. That could be adding an item to a cart, clicking on a link, watching a video. Then what you can do with that is say, if someone clicks on a link, assign this a $5 value. So pixels have incredible value when it comes to understanding the overall ROI from your campaigns and also what specific actions your users are taking on your website. So now that we covered goals and the specific things that you can achieve with social media advertising, we still haven't gotten into the targeting or actually creating of the ads, which is the absolute most fun part for marketers. We're gonna dive deep into that starting now.